Charlie, the owner of a construction company, arrives at a site with his big bodyguard, Dot, to ask the foreman, J.A., about the best ladies' man among the workers. J.A. points out one man, but when Charlie and Dot approach him, they find him rude. Charlie then notices Jimmy, a worker who is saving for law school. Charlie tries to talk to Jimmy, but he ignores them, focused on his work. It's only when Dot mentions that Charlie is the one who signs his paycheck that Jimmy pays attention. Charlie decides to take Jimmy to lunch, where he learns that Jimmy's mother left him and his father is in a nursing home. Charlie then reveals that he has a tumor and wants to test his wife's faithfulness before he dies. He offers Jimmy $10,000 to charm his wife and $50,000 if she falls for him. He gives Jimmy a folder with her details and tells him to think about it. After the meal, Jimmy thanks Charlie and leaves with the folder. That evening, Charlie's wife, Lily, greets him at home. During dinner, they talk about the movie she's writing, which could take her to Hollywood and bring her into contact with other men. Lily tells her husband that she's devoted to him. Meanwhile, Jimmy's friend Ted visits him and mentions that his ex, Polly, who made him sick, is back in town. Jimmy tells Ted to stop chasing her, but Ted doesn't listen. Jimmy then shares Charlie's offer with him and shows him a picture of Charlie's wife. Ted recognizes her as a former model. They continue their talk at a bar where Ted figures out that with the money Charlie is offering, Jimmy could pay his law school tuition. Ted pushes Jimmy to take the offer, suggesting that to become a lawyer he has to ignore his morals. Later, Charlie invites Lily to visit the construction site the next day. He shows her the doors Jimmy designed and introduces her to him. After that, Charlie walks with J.A., leaving Jimmy to talk to Lily about his design. Jimmy tries to compliment her, but Lily just smiles, kisses her husband goodbye, and walks away. Charlie and Jimmy then talk about the job. To prove he can seduce his wife, Charlie tells Jimmy to find a mark on her body. If Jimmy can describe it, he'll get the remaining $40,000. Charlie says he'll be away for the week, and he'll hire Jimmy to do work in the house to get closer to his wife. He hands Jimmy the first $10,000, which Jimmy takes before leaving. Charlie hires a private investigator named Byron to find proof of his wife's suspected infidelity. Byron initially says he only handles corporate cases, not marital ones, but Charlie threatens him, so Byron agrees to take the job. Meanwhile, Jimmy heads to his father's cabin by the swamp to gather wood. Back at Charlie's house, Charlie breaks a door himself. Afterward, he tells her about a trip to Dallas and mentions sending someone to fix the door. The next day, as they head to the airport, Byron's team arrives to set up cameras. After dropping Charlie off at the airport, Lily returns home and meets Byron and his team. Byron introduces himself as part of the security Charlie hired and leaves politely. Later, Jimmy arrives at Charlie's house and Lily shows him the broken door. While fixing it, Jimmy mentions that he'll see her in a modeling campaign and asks if she met Charlie there. Lily says they met at a charity event, but she admits Charlie no longer attends those. Jimmy remarks that Charlie stopped trying to impress her, which offends Lily. She goes upstairs, and Jimmy, disappointed with his failure, decides to be more direct. He goes up to the bedroom where Lily is listening to music, tells her he's finished fixing the door, and touches her while asking what she's listening to. Lily calls him out on his behavior, but Jimmy moves closer, saying she can refuse him at any time. In response, Lily pulls out a gun and orders him to leave. Jimmy smiles, backs off, and walks away. That evening, Jimmy and Ted play billiards, and Jimmy talks about Lily's strong and captivating presence. Ted warns him not to get too involved with her, but Jimmy brushes off the advice. The next day, Charlie's secretary, Heather, confronts Dot about rumors that Charlie paid Jimmy to sleep with his wife. Dot threatens Heather to stop spreading the rumors, but Heather simply walks away. Meanwhile, Lily drives to a mall. As she leaves her car, Jimmy unlocks it, turns on the headlights, and leaves. When Lily returns, she finds her car battery dead. Unable to start the car, she spots Jimmy and asks for help. After jump-starting the car, Jimmy apologizes for his earlier behavior and suggests they be friends. While this happens, Byron's team secretly plants a bug on Jimmy's car. Later, Jimmy invites Lily to a Burnside concert, and she agrees, asking him to meet her at a small bar. That night, they meet at the bar, and Lily apologizes for being late, explaining she had trouble parking. Jimmy suggests she get a different car, but she refuses, saying it's a gift from Charlie. Jimmy mentions that he wouldn't spend much on a car since he's still in school and needs the money. Lily says once he becomes successful, he can afford a nice car, but Jimmy expresses that he prefers a simple and modest life. Lily agrees with Jimmy's idea of a simple life, despite being married. Jimmy argues that since she's married, she should follow her husband's rules, but Lily disagrees. They go to the concert, but Lily spots Heather in the crowd and pulls Jimmy away, fearing her husband might get jealous. Jimmy offers to take her to a bar outside of town, but she declines. He then points out that she's following her husband's rules, and she accepts the challenge, deciding to drive with him. On the way to the bar, Jimmy mentions his father gave him a shack near the swamp. They reach the bar, where they dance, unaware that Byron is watching from a distance. As they move slowly to the music, Lily becomes lost in the moment. The music stops, and Jimmy goes to the bar for a drink. But when he returns, Lily is gone. She feels guilty about how the night turned out. Later that night, Jimmy returns home to find Ted hurt. He rushes to him, but Ted pushes him away, confessing that he ended Polly's life. Shocked, Jimmy helps him hide the body. Ted insists he did it because Polly spread illness without warning, but Jimmy doesn't believe it. He knows Ted was simply jealous that Polly was moving on. The next day, Heather calls Lily and asks to meet her at a restaurant. There, she reveals that Charlie hired Jimmy to seduce her. Lily is shocked and excuses herself to think. After a moment of reflection, she leaves Jimmy a voicemail about a broken window. That afternoon, Jimmy arrives to fix a window in the dining room. While he's working, Lily apologizes for leaving early the night before, explaining she wanted to avoid anything intimate between them. This makes Jimmy accidentally cut his finger. Lily gently kisses his wounded finger, and they share a passionate moment. Later that evening, Jimmy meets Ted at a bar. Ted asks how his $50,000 job went, but Jimmy realizes he forgot to look for the target. Ted suggests he try again. Jimmy wonders why Lily is married to Charlie, but Ted warns him not to get too involved. Ted then shows Jimmy a newspaper article saying Polly's body was found, and her death may be a hate crime. He reassures Jimmy that they won't be linked to the crime. Meanwhile, Byron records the video of Jimmy and Lily. The next day, Jimmy gets a message from a law firm about his application. He goes for an interview where Mr. Crab praises his resume and offers him an internship. But his luck doesn't last long. Soon after, two detectives question him about Polly. After the interrogation, Jimmy meets Ted and admits he lied to the police for him. Ted apologizes, but says they'll be fine. Meanwhile, Byron shows Charlie the video of Lily and Jimmy. Charlie suspects Byron set it up, but Byron argues that Lily was involved willingly. Charlie drinks at the bar, and Dot suggests he spend time with other women to fix his marriage. Charlie thinks about killing Jimmy, but Dot suggests they just pay him off and move on, so they visit Jimmy at the construction site to give him the rest of the money. Jimmy apologizes to Charlie, saying he failed to win over his wife. Surprised, Charlie asks if Jimmy was involved with Lily, but Jimmy denies it. Angry at the lie, Charlie attacks Jimmy and leaves. That evening, Charlie comes home and asks Lily about her week. She praises him for being good at his job. Sensing what she means, Charlie later sends Dot to confront Jimmy at his house while he watches. Charlie demands to know why Jimmy lied. The nervous carpenter offers to return the money, saying he felt ashamed. Charlie refuses and orders Jimmy to take care of Lily. When Jimmy refuses, Charlie threatens his father. Left with no choice, Jimmy agrees. Dot tells Jimmy he'll hide in the cemetery and make it look like a robbery when he harms Lily. Later, Jimmy meets Ted in the cemetery. Ted suggests Jimmy leave town with the money, but Jimmy explains that if he doesn't go through with it, they'll hurt Lily, his father, and him. Concerned for Lily, Jimmy visits her and warns her about Charlie. Jimmy listens to Lily and notices a mark on her. After their conversation, Lily suggests that Jimmy should take action against Charlie in the cemetery, or she might be in danger. Jimmy reassures her that everything will be fine as he thinks about his next steps. The next day, Charlie and Lily prepare to leave for an event. As their car drives off, Byron and his men break into the house to retrieve the recordings. Later, Byron watches the tapes and hears Lily's suggestion for Jimmy to take action against Charlie. After the event, Charlie and Lily take a walk in the cemetery, where a masked man confronts them. The man shoots Charlie several times, but as he falls, Lily manages to defend herself and fires back. Both of them collapse, and Lily calls for help. The authorities soon arrive and discover that the masked man is Ted, someone Lily doesn't recognize. Meanwhile, Jimmy goes to the police station to confess, only to hear about the incident at the cemetery. He rushes to the scene and sees Ted's body, realizing that Ted did the job for him. Shocked, Jimmy runs away. Later, at the hospital, Charlie lies unconscious in a coma. Lily sits by his bed, upset and blaming him for not trusting her. She says she never would have betrayed him if he hadn't tested her. Eventually, Charlie's heart monitor flatlines. Lily says goodbye before leaving. As she exits, 2 detectives approach her. She is taken to the station with her lawyer, Mr. Crabbe. The detectives question her about why she didn't stop the attacker sooner, but Crabbe defends her and leaves with her. On the way home, Crabbe drives Lily back, and not wanting to be alone, she offers him a drink. Crabbe tells Lily that Charlie signed a new will the day before, still in his safe. Lily asks who knows, and Crabbe says only them. Meanwhile, Jimmy, troubled, meets Byron at a bar. Byron shows him a tape and tracking device, revealing Charlie paid him to record their meetings. Byron warns that if Lily shot Ted, she might target Jimmy next. The next morning, Jimmy decides to stay and seeks legal advice from Crabbe. After watching the tape, Crabbe asks to keep it, but when Lily calls, Jimmy suspects Crabbe is working for her. He grabs the tape back and escapes as Crabbe and security chase him. Crabbe calls Lily to explain. Later, Jimmy plans to leave but gets a page from Lily asking to meet. Dot, disturbed by the news of his boss's death, leaves breakfast. At the bar, Jimmy and Lily meet. She denies the affair was for money, and Jimmy admits he didn't take Charlie's offer because he liked her. Lily offers him $500,000 for the tape and warns him he won't get the money otherwise. She also threatens that if she goes to prison, he will too. He agrees to meet her at his shack later. Dot breaks into Jimmy's house with a shotgun, searching for evidence of his involvement in his boss's death. Later, Jimmy drives to the cabin, reflecting on his time with Lily and realizing how dangerous she is. At the shack, Lily arrives, and they sit down with the tape and money. Jimmy asks if she cared about him or just used him to get rid of Charlie. She admits she didn't care. When he asks if it was for him or the money, she says it was for both, with the money as a bonus. Byron and the detectives listen in from a distance. Lily tries to take Jimmy's gun, but he knocks it away, injuring his arm. As she tries to escape, Dot shoots at her. A struggle breaks out, and Dot is shot by the detectives. Lily runs into the woods but is caught by Byron. She realizes Jimmy must have made a deal with the authorities. She acknowledges it before being taken away. In the end, Jimmy is left alone, knowing he will never be the same.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.